Hi, welcome to FSW Signals, a podcast from the Institute of Innovative and Emerging Technologies, where we look at the innovative things happening at the college and explore what they might mean about the future we're shaping together. I'm Mitch, and today we're thrilled to chat with Andrae Jones, the Interim Director of Admissions, who will share about their innovative approach to reimagining that office. Andrae is joined by Jason Dudley, the Vice President of Business Affairs and Technology, and Anna Haney-Withrow, the Director of the Institute. Well, congratulations, Andrae, on being the recipient of this year's NISOD Award. How does it feel to be selected for this honor?
Thanks, Mitch. It's really a humbling experience. I'm really honored that I received the award. I really think of FSW as my home. In high school, I did dual enrollment classes here. I then did my associate in arts degree here. And after graduating from USF, I came here to work. So I've spent more than half my life at FSW. So I really feel like I've grown up professionally at FSW. So when I think about the fact that we have so many amazing colleagues here at FSW doing great work, the fact that I was recognized for the work I did truly was humbling. It was unexpected. If I were expecting it, I would have probably not worn a gray shirt. I had like a gray drab polo shirt.
Everyone's talking about it.
I know. I have a feeling everyone is. So it was unexpected. It was a pleasant surprise, but I couldn't have done it without the team. So I have had the chance to work on some amazing teams, and I think this admissions team is one of the most amazing. So it's not just me. It's really a team honor, a team award.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like it was very well deserved. Well, going off that, could you tell us about some of the great things that are happening right now in admissions?
So in admissions, we are really focused on trying to get students a decision as soon as possible when they apply, because we want to remain competitive. And we feel that by leveraging technology to be able to speed up the process, remove a lot of the barriers that we previously had during the enrollment process, really allows students to hear back from us soon and really keeps us in the conversation, so we're not having students go to other institutions because we can't achieve. I really feel that having answers to students as soon as possible helps students make an informed decision and allows us to remain competitive within the marketplace in which we serve. Our focus for the immediate time period right now is working on getting students transcripts from their high schools as soon as possible and having that system completely automated so we can really spend time working with students one-on-one, having personal, in-depth conversations instead of being in the back working on paperwork.
That sounds smart, to automate the busy work and spend the time actually doing the human interaction.
All right, Andrae. Not a lot of people know you actually work in IT. And that I asked you about, 3 years ago now? To be the interim director?
It feels like it, yes.
And in my defense, I never gave you an end date. So
you said a June, but not June with a specific year.
Yeah. So you're still the interim director of admissions. So let's talk about admissions a little bit. We tore that down, completely down to nothing. I mean, that we had staff turnover. Most of the staff was new. And then we changed every single process they had. And we did this all within a year. And keeping that morale and staff still wanting to work in admissions takes a lot of work. I mean, change management is tough. What are some of the things that you did to accomplish that?
And that may have been one of the most challenging parts. I didn't want to just walk in and be, oh, this guy from IT is going to come and change all of our processes. And I was very happy that you had conversations with all the staff members, so you were able to give me a heads up before going in on some of the concerns. So I continued that conversation when I started in admissions. That was the first thing I did. I didn't want to just jump in and say, hey, I have all these great ideas. And I really, even though I had experience in the admissions department, it was probably 10 years since I worked in admissions prior to that. So I'm sure a lot of things had changed in the 10 years since. But I think, I assume one of the reasons you selected me for that position was having the background and really knowing what it is like to be in that office, to, be able to put myself in the mindset of an admissions staff member. So when I came in, I continued the conversations with the staff to really hear from them what is working, what's not working. And then, as you know, we tried to accomplish some quick wins right away, some simple things that we could automate, things that they were finding very tedious, to show them, okay, we're not here to go through and change for the sake of changing, but rather we're trying to make changes that is going to free up your time to be able to do things that you find more meaningful.
Perfect. That's exactly right. I did choose you because you had the background in student services. So good call. The next part is, as a leader, what type of advice would you give other leaders that are going through a major overhaul like that?
It's important that we respect the knowledge of those who are performing the work. And if we're talking specifically about coming in and trying to implement automated processes, also acknowledging that while we are here to make things more efficient, more effective, we're not here to automate you out of a position. We had staff members who were fearful that, okay, you're here to automate things. Does that mean that I'm not going to have a job? Is that what you're trying to do? So you have to address those things up front, because if you don't, staff members are going to have that in the back of their mind. And not only do you have to say it, but you have to show that you are really heading down that path. For example, we had vacant positions while we were automating certain portions of the admission application process, and we went forward with hiring. So they could see, okay, yes, they're trying to automate, they're trying to do this, but they are also walking the walk of what the focus should be on, is on making the staff members have more time to have meaningful, deep conversations with students, not just trying to do a reduction. So I think that that's probably one of the most important things when coming in, acknowledging that they have expertise that we're going to respect. We're not going to come in as we know everything. We're going to listen, and that we're not trying to automate you out of a job. Should it be something similar regarding automating processes?
And at any point, did you think, what the heck are we doing?
Well, there was that time when you called Kaylee and me and said, I have an idea. Tell me if I'm crazy. And said, well, we're going to stop taking phone calls. To which I thought you were joking. So I'm here laughing. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, he's serious. He really wants to stop taking phone calls. But that was probably the turning point of the whole admissions process. And I know that was a result of conversations that you were having with staff members, where staff members were just so stressed from the phone itself, ringing nonstop. That was probably one of the craziest things that we did. We've spoken with colleagues at other institutions, and when we say we don't take phone calls, they have the same reaction that I had when I first heard it. Like, oh, you must be kidding. Oh, no, you're serious? How does that work? And once everyone in the department, well, the buy-in was almost immediate from everyone. Once they heard about the plan and how we're going to flip from inbound calls to putting students in a queue and doing outbound calls through the queue list system, we were all on board. And then it started to go to the other departments once they saw the impact that specific thing had. Because we were so focused on answering phones, we could not process paperwork. And then we couldn't process paperwork, so students were calling in, asking about their paperwork. So it was just a vicious cycle. I think that was probably the most radical things. There are tons of other things that we did, but in terms of just a radical idea, an institution that isn't taking phone calls is probably one of the most radical ideas.
I love this so much. And Andrae, we've never actually talked about this before, but literally this is the exact advice I give to everybody that wants to talk about AI or wants to talk about their workplace systems. It's exactly what you're saying. Give your people time on that meaningful work that matters. Automate what's in the background. And totally going off script here, but one of the things we're seeing is that Gen Z hates automated experiences, in the way that we tend to imagine older people, older people aren't going to want that, and so on. And so what are you getting back from students? Are they really, are you getting a lot of positive feedback about the fact that oh, wow, I can talk to a human and get some real face-to-face time or meaningful time?
What we see is, for example, going back to the queue list example, we put students in a queue and we call them back, and they're surprised that we are calling them back. So that's thing number one. Oh, I didn't know you were going to call me. Yes, of course we're going to call you. That's what we said we were going to do. I don't have information on the exact split between other processes that we have, such as using the automated chat. and I don't think there's a way to gather that information
Only,
regarding
only 10% of all students get to a
live agent. Yeah. So
Okay.
from looking back at the data, that's what I was going to say. Looking back at chat history, we can see, how many students are using Vicky with the chat agent. I think if you're able to get students the information that they're actually looking for immediately, then it's not as frustrating. So if they are asking a question to the chatbot and the chatbot is specific with the response that they need, then great, they will have a pleasant experience. The frustration happens if they're not getting what they want, then they're coming over to the human and a little bit frustrated at that time that they were interacting with a bot. But the chatbot itself, if we're answering 90%, you say 90%?
90%,
90% of the students are getting the information immediately. In terms, it's funny that you asked that because it differs also per campus. For example, the Collier campus, just that environment, they have the highest walk-in rates. Like, it's unique to that campus. When you look at the data, they want to have that in-person experience. When you look at another campus, you see more of a bifurcation between the number of individuals that want an in-person experience versus someone who wants an automated experience. So I find that interesting. It seems to be localized by the actual geographical area that we're serving, and it's so different between the campuses as well.
Well, I think the fact that you both are jumping in with specific data points tells me everything about the operation. And that's what I would say to people. Like, you're not going to know, and you can have ideas and generalizations, but if you can pull out that kind of data and you guys can pull it right off the top of your heads, I think that's really what it's all about. All right, I have one more question for you, which is about trends in college admissions. So are there any trends in admissions overall that you think people should be aware of, and how do you see them impacting us at FSW?
That's going back to what you're saying, where the population of students that we serve is very diverse. So we have students who are right out of high school. They're used to getting that immediate response. You have a question, you want an answer right away. But we're also dealing with, someone who is in their mid-30s coming back to be upskilled. So we deal with a very diverse population, and we want to make sure that no matter what, we have systems and processes in place to meet the students where they're at. So we have the chatbot to serve students in terms of responding immediately. And in terms of trends, other institutions are beginning to go down that path. When we look at, so I'm not talking from the student experience right now, but just other institutions are looking at ways to be able to serve students 24/7. I have a question, it's after hours, we have questions. We want to make sure that in the evening we have coverage to be able to serve the population who are not available during the day, but are reaching out to us in the evenings. Overall, I would say the trend is being responsive is now just an expectation. When I started at FSW, it was Edison Community College at the time. So back in 2005, we had paper applications. So someone would fill out a piece of paper and would hand it to me at the front counter, and then I would type the same information they wrote down on that piece of paper in the system. I don't even know what version of Banner we were using at the time. Banner version 1. I would say no, it's probably version 7, 6, 7.
I think it was
6.
I think it was 6.
Yeah,
The
Banner
old phones
version
were
6.
6,
Yeah. So, I look back at that, and someone would hand me a piece of paper, and then days later, after we processed their information, we would then physically mail them a document. That just isn't something that can happen now. They want to go online, fill something out, get an immediate response. So it's about being as responsive as possible. That is just where the expectation is going with the majority of our students at this time.
Well, thank you, Andrae, for your insight. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you to everyone. And thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of Signals. See you next time.